Hey, brother, how's it going?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm pretty good, man. So, welcome everybody back to the We Rush In podcast. Today, I got an old acquaintance of mine, Paul Britton. He's with the RCMP, currently posted up in Nunavut. We work together in Alberta. Recently, July of 2022, Paul had a article published into the Blue Line magazine about financial fitness for law enforcement and financial literacy. As we know, this is a bit of a problem when it comes to police officers. And Paul decided he needed to do something, or he felt the need to. So, I guess quickly, first of all, I guess where in Nunavut are you?
So currently, I am in Resolute Bay, Nunavut, which is the second most northern detachment we have in the RCMP, the second most northern inhabited community full time.
Wow. Okay. What's the furthest north? Just out of
The
curiosity.
furthest north is Greece Fjord, which is 1 hour north
Okay.
by plane
Oh
of
wow.
us. Yeah, and that
Yeah.
is the end of the
And
line when
is
it
there
comes
members
to.
posted there?
Yeah, there's two members. We have two members here. So there's myself and one other member, and then Greece has a corporal and a constable as well. So two members.
Okay. Right on. Right on. Cool. And you guys help each other out? Like if something real bad
We sure
happens, are
do.
you the guys flying up there? Yeah.
So
Right
most
on.
likely that wouldn't happen if there's an emergency. We wouldn't fly up, two of us, because the help would come from Iqaluit. But we do lean on
Oh,
each other
okay.
quite a
Yeah, yeah,
bit
that makes sense.
for experience. As the corporal just left Greece, I used to email him for just tips on running a detachment, and then they just got replaced. He got replaced by another
sure.
guy who's brand new in the division, and now he's emailing me about the same kind of stuff. So it's a circle like that here in Nunavut
Yeah.
with the changes.
Yeah, it's kind of the same where I work. Is we're all learning, but we all have different levels of experience, right? So people are leaning on each other, calling up, and hey, what do you think about this? Like that's policing, man. That's just helping each other out. Everybody has their
That's
thing.
how it goes.
So
Yeah.
yeah, man. I guess real quick about the whole article you wrote. What prompted you, sorry, to write that in the first place? Like what was going on?
So my second posting after we worked together there in St. Paul area. I went up to Fort McMurray and I transferred up there, and I bought a condo right at the top of the top real estate market. And literally
Oh
the
yeah.
next the month after I bought that condo, it started to oil crashed, and the value of real estate started to drop. I met my
Yeah, man.
wife.
I get it.
Yeah, I met my wife. And then we bought a house, and we were like, oh well, we don't want to sell this condo at this loss, so let's rent it out. So we did that for a bit, and then we're like, oh no, it'll bounce back and prices will go back. And no, they didn't. They kept dropping. So I initially bought this condo at 350,000, and I sold it for. Or I didn't sell it. I foreclosed, but it valued at about 100 and change.
Man.
So
Wow.
I did the math, and I was looking at a loss of, if I rented it, I was looking at a loss of about $800 a month for the next 15 years. So I could sell it for zero. So all of a sudden I'm looking at foreclosure, and I had never missed a bill payment in my life, had excellent credit, never really gave money a second thought, because I just always had enough, or the ability to go and work more overtime and get money if I wanted to buy something. Or I really didn't have a very advanced knowledge of finances and
Yeah.
money, and
No kidding. Nobody
how it
does.
worked. And I just remember back to our training at Depot, we had like a half an hour to an hour lecture on pension and money, and it was is a guy from staffing came in and said, the RCP is the best pension, so you should never quit. So I'm like, oh, okay, that's good. And I really never gave it a second thought, because hey, he's a sergeant, he's telling us this is true, and who am I to argue with him? Also during that time period, I would see a lot of junior members making the same mistakes. They would get most likely Fort Mac was usually their first posting, and
Yeah.
they would show up. They would first off they would buy a brand new truck and finance it, generally on terrible terms. And a year and a half later, they'd be trying to sell it and losing all this money, or refinancing their loan into a more economical vehicle that made more sense. So
Yeah.
I kept seeing this over and over and over, and I just decided to write an article about it, and I kept seeing also that how finances played a big role in members' mental health. Like
Oh yeah.
there's in policing, a lot of members talk about like the policing triangle for your health, your body, your mind, and your spirit. You keep those working, and you'll have a great career, and you'll get everything you want out of your life, of all parts of it, and work-life balance. But you can be the fittest member, the best police officer. You can have great mental health, but if you're going home and you're spending more money than you're making, your debts are piling up, and you can't make your minimum payments and bills, and you're gonna have a harder time achieving what you want out of life. So I just decided to write that article.
Right on. Yeah, I totally vibe with all of that, man. Like, I bought my house in Estevan. It's the only transfer they would give me to Saskatchewan, and I bought my house for like 392 or 4 or something. And when I finally ended up selling it 2 years after I left Estevan, I think I got 269 for it, something like that.
Okay.
Like, I had to take out money. I had to take out a loan basically to pay the difference in the mortgage just so I could move on.
Yeah.
So I get it for sure. And then when you go from making not much money to making cop money, so to speak, it's easy to fall into that trap. Like, well, I could afford that payment. I'm going to get that nice car, truck, or trailer, or toy, or whatever. Yeah, for sure. It's definitely a pitfall that you can end up in.
It is, right, but it's like in the RCMP, like we're vulnerable to those kind of situations because we're transferred to these often remote locations where you don't, like, there's usually one industry in town, and you can, like, say if the mill closes down, or the paper mill, or the fishing operation, like, the cost of real estate goes down by 50%, right? And maybe even more. And you're now giving away your house, where normally you'd be able to at least sell it for what you got and move on, right? So
Yeah, for sure.
So you got to make good financial decisions going along the way to have like a defense mechanism against those kind of issues. Keep your credit,
for
keep
sure.
your credit cards down.
Have you noticed? Well, even just man, like, you don't realize when you get that 29% interest, like, it adds up real quick if you start jacking up your credit card.
No, 100%. It's credit card debt is one of the worst. And then, I was lucky, like, when we left Fort McMurray, like, my wife's also a member. We sold our house at a loss, and I foreclosed on my condo, but we were still able to leave. We were able to come up to Nunavut here and rebuild our finances with some money in the bank, which is good. But we were only able to do that because we didn't have car payments in Fort Mac. We didn't have credit card debt. We didn't live a lavish life.
Right.
Like, we just lived reasonably,
and
we were able.
Yeah.
So like my advice to people, if they're having financial issues, you got to understand like where your money is going every month. Take a stock of what you had. And that's the first thing I did. I said, okay, well, you got like your bills are what? Can you do better on those? How many streaming services? How many, like, where's all your money going? Right. And take a hard look at what you're spending and just understand it. And then look where you can cut. Personally, like when we move south, like we don't own any vehicles right now. And when we move south, we're gonna buy used vehicles and avoid payments at all costs, because if you can eliminate that massive payment in your life, man, you'll be laughing, especially as a police officer. You can really do well because we do, like, as cops, like we don't have a income issue. We have a spending issue.
Oh, I agree 100%. Definitely. Right. It's hard to not fall into that trap where it's like, well, I got the money, I want this, I want that, Yeah.
And also too, like, who's to say, right, after a hard set of shifts, I talk about in my article, like I would find myself going to the mall in Fort Mac after like the first day after night shift, not really needing anything specific. I just wanted to buy something because it made me feel good. It's like it's retail therapy, and I practice that, and you got to find better outlets for your issues, right?
Absolutely. There's different avenues you can take rather than, maybe focus on getting outdoors or fitness or something other than spending money on junk.
100%. And I see it. I see it over and over and over with members that, like, lifestyle creep is a real thing. Like, let's say you're brand new, you're coming to a detachment. You got all this excessive income, right? Like, say a new member in southern Saskatchewan or southern Manitoba is going to be, probably one of the highest earners in the area that they're working. So right away, buy themselves a brand new truck. You got a $600 or $800 payment, and it doesn't take long when members they go on 2 vacations a year. You meet someone, you guys buy a house, and there it is. Like, you have a kid. Your income is like getting taxed quite a bit. So lifestyle creep, you got to watch that. Like, as you get raises, don't go out and say, oh, well, I have this much more money, I can get into a better car payment or something.
Yeah. For sure.
One thing too that really
have you noticed
saved us
have you noticed anything, like, has your agency started to do anything as far as helping members, or is there some available help, some kind of program where guys can get some financial information? Or
so now with the introduction of the National Police Federation, they have brought in this program where you can subscribe to some financial counseling, and it's offered through the Enriched Academy, and they partner with other organizations, and they're a leader in Canada on financial literacy. They work with the CFL, they work with the NHL, they work with a lot of the police associations in Ontario, and they have a program that you can pay money, and you'll join this program. You get a financial coach, and they'll take a real hard look at your finances and your situation. And they also show you different ways to invest outside of traditional investment options.
Right.
Which they can provide you some knowledge on ways to invest and gain passive income. so that you're drawing
Yeah.
more money as more money in by the month, and not just your
Okay.
salary. So that's when you can
Right.
really build your
Gotcha.
wealth, is when you bring in some passive income as well as your police salary.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Actually, that's one thing I was going to ask about was I was talking to a friend who works there in Estevan, and I guess the new chief there had all the guys there offered them to sign up with Enriched. So I was going to ask you if you've heard of them, but obviously you have.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I did. I did the program myself, and we're doing some of the advice, taking some of the advice that they talked about. They're really big on rental properties, and they're big on private lending. So both are pretty
Okay.
lucrative, pretty lucrative ways of making some money. So I've made some investments, because we've had a very good 2022. Like, being up in the north, we had a great year financially up here, and
Right.
but the key is not spending that money faster than you make it.
Yeah, for sure.
Key is investing it wisely, and making sure you grow your money, so that when you have a situation like I hit in Fort Mac, you have a bit of a cushion and a defensive mechanism there to protect your finances.
You totally need that. I definitely didn't have some of that, making some decisions to, leave Esteban and things like that. I mean, we made it work because I needed to, but definitely, if more preparation ahead of time definitely would have helped. Just coming from me going through a divorce and things like that, all taxes everything. It taxes your mental health, it taxes your financial health. Like, it's all, and it's no lie. Like, that's a high percentage in policing of people that deal with a divorce somewhere along the way. It's sad. It's just the reality, right? Like, that's, you can't deny it.
Well, yeah, especially in the RCMP, like you have, like, on top of all that extra stress of being a police officer, you have the stress of moving from point A to point B every 3 to 5 years, right? Which adds to the stress. And my I went through a divorce as soon as I joined the RCMP. It was like same thing, and I always laugh. It cost me $87,000 in joint
Well, and
joint debt,
like
cash,
joint,
and and all that stuff, everything. So I know what that. So it adds
well,
up
and you
quick.
think about the stress of you think about the stress of starting a policing career, and then you add that on top. Like, that's got to be something.
Yeah. Well, it's one thing, right? Like, if you have your finances running smoothly, that's just one extra thing that you really don't got to worry about as a police officer, right? Like, you can go to work and not have to think, oh, like, am I going to be able to make this month's credit card bill or this month's car payment, right? Is my rent going to be late?
Yeah.
You can go and you can be a great police officer and not have to worry about that stuff. And also too, you can, like, if you want to take all your days off and not work overtime, and recharge, hey, you don't but if you're pressured because of financial issues, you got to work all that overtime. It's going to add up, and there's eventually going to be a limit that you can do, right? You're going to break. And I've seen it happen personally. Like, it's happened to me.
Same.
And it's happened to a lot of people that I've seen, and I think money always has a big thing to do with that.
Yeah, and honestly, if you do that long enough, it could cost you your career, like, eventually.
Well, 100%.
Yeah.
I bet you, like, if I know, like, the RCMP doesn't really, they need to study people that have gone through, like, take a look at what's going on in the lives of members that have either committed suicide, have had like real bad situations where they've got into a situation where they've been discharged like through disciplinary reasons or code of conduct issues. I would, or like even extreme cases like corruption cases where you'd look at a member's finance. I'm sure a member money and finances is a motivating factor in all those cases. But we really as an organization and as a profession of policing, we really got to do better and stay on top of training guys new when they come to depot or police college or wherever you're getting trained.
Yeah.
There should be a whole day on at least on how does credit work, what all that kind of stuff.
Kidding.
Because a lot of times members come to depot and police training, they're like early 20s, where it's their first like real job.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you're going to be making an $80,000 base salary to start, and you're going to go out and you're a prime target for vehicle salespeople, toy salespeople, and banks love you because of our steady salary. So you're a good candidate for credit.
Yeah.
So I think like it needs to be dealt with better as an organization. Give people the tools so that they can make good choices.
I saw that even growing up in a military town, being a military brat. They didn't make great money, but it was consistent. So banks were always apt, it seems, to lend these guys money for the new Kawasaki Ninja motorbike or the brand new car or whatever. And I'd like to know how many of those guys were able to maintain that long term.
Yeah.
Because the military is the same pitfall, right?
It. No, I totally agree. And we're going to see too with with rising interest rates here, and people that borrowed borrowed a lot, have a line of credit, and have borrowed money against their house. Are they going to be because all those rates are variable, right? They're not fixed rates. We're gonna see some people in some tight situations, right? That are gonna have to unload their properties and their toys, and it's
just to make ends meet.
And the key to that is you gotta keep that borrowing to a minimum.
Yeah, it took me a lot of years to figure that out, but definitely on that track now. Like, we don't borrow what we don't need, because it only leads to a lot of problems.
Well, I know everybody's situation is different, but with our situation here, like having been in the north, me being a member, my wife being a member, we're gonna have 2 kids here soon. We could if we don't load ourselves up with unnecessary debt, we could live anywhere in Canada that the RCMP would want to send us. So if we want to live in the Lower Mainland or Victoria, we could. So we essentially, by making smart decisions, we could say, okay, well, where is the best opportunity for us, for our family, for our kids, for us as our careers? Like, where are the best options? Where can we go? And that list gets a lot bigger if you're not laden with like a lot of consumer debt, where so your options get bigger if you don't owe a lot of money on a lot of stuff. Like ideally we would, as a couple, we would like to get to a point where we can live comfortably without having to go to work, because we've bought enough assets,
right,
and properties, or have enough cash flowing
passive
investments
income becomes your income.
Like we don't have to go to work. We could say, like instead of going to work every day, like one of us could punch out and or both, or whatever, right? But that only happens if you make make good choices and you take care of your finances.
Absolutely. Have you noticed a shift overall from the membership? Like, Are you finding more and more people getting on board with being smart about things, or are we still falling in the same pitfalls for those young 20 somethings?
I think it really depends on where you are, like, and what kind of supervisory people. Like, if you're working, like, I would always tell the young guys that I worked with, I'm like, man, stop buying those stupid vehicles. Like, don't do that. Like, they'd be talking about what to buy, and some people aren't going to listen, and that's just like I did the same stupid thing when I was their age too, and people don't. Like, they learn with experience, right? And that's why they call it life experience, because you get older, and and people learn through pain, right? The pain of making an $800 truck payment every month for a vehicle that you paid $75,000 to $80,000 for, and now it's worth 40.
Yeah, no kidding.
Like, that's a very powerful lesson, and you'll learn, and they learn it.
Yeah.
Right. So.
Yeah, the hard way, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
right on.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that there's not more people on board, but sometimes you just got to learn it the hard way, right? Some guys, that's just how it is.
You do got to learn it the hard way.
And
no, 100%. I totally agree with that. And I learned it that way. More people do. But what I do is I tell guys, hey, like, look, there's options out there. And I think there is now, like, there is options now. Like, you can go through the association. I looked on our benefits. Recently I did some claims for dental work we had up here, and I saw on our benefit system, you can claim credit counseling as a benefit, free to you as a member.
Yeah.
So it's so that is good. Like, I haven't used it yet to see what it's like, but at least there is something there that's accessible if you need it right away.
Yeah.
So I think we're getting better.
Absolutely.
We're not quite there yet, but once we establish that a little piece in training, where, like, people start to say, hey, look, credit is an issue and it can affect your work.
Yeah. No shit.
Because that's like,
why not? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think like everything, right? It's like training is they've always got to figure out a way to cut down the time, make it more efficient, and they're always losing some things and gaining others. And training, right? The demands on members' training schedule it's like the demands on their work. It's going up. Well, you only have so many hours in the cadet training program. You're going to add more work and more stuff
if
on
you
the
take
members'
from
plate.
one spot.
So there's probably
Yeah.
Which agreed.
Right on. Well, I'm really happy to have you on the show today. I'll definitely put a link to some things in the show notes there, like your article, which is a good read. Yeah. And maybe a quick link to that Enriched Academy, even if guys maybe pitch it to their organization, like, hey, maybe the organization can get this in place for the guys, so that they can, and the guys and gals, so that they can figure out what to do.
Well, it's, you know what, like, if you have a financially healthy police officer, that's one step towards mental health, having a good mental health, having good, like,
100%
mind, good body, and you're operating at a level that the public expects us. And when the people at the end of the day, when people call the police, they expect that a mentally well, competent person is going to be showing up and dealing with their issue, and having people that aren't bogged down with debts and aren't struggling that way, it's a good step, and it's often ignored. But yeah, any of your listeners want to connect with me, they can look me up on Instagram. I'm big on Instagram at Britton North, and I'm also big on LinkedIn too. It's my name, Paul Britton, there, and shoot me a DM message if you got questions. I can stick you in the right direction, and we can have a chat.
Cool. Appreciate it, man.
Yeah,
You
anytime.
be safe out there. Take care. Yeah, man.
You too.
Okay.
Great talking again.